Mr. Gabler.
Yes.
Stand for the pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Dr. Fox, do you have any agenda changes or additions?
Yes, I do. Tonight we have three. The first is that we'd like to remove the personnel action from the consent agenda. And we'd like to add 2 items to our action agenda. So 8.05 will become approval of the personnel packet as presented. And 8.06 would be approval of the addition to the personnel packet.
Can I have a motion to approve the agenda with the removal and the additions as requested?
Make a motion that we approve the agenda as presented.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Mr. Painter and a second by Mrs. Sullivan Smith. Mr. Painter.
Yes.
Dr. Smith.
Yes.
Mr. Gabler.
Yes.
Mrs. Sullivan Smith.
Yes.
Yes. A motion to, no. We just need a motion to certify, actions discussed in closed session.
Yes, I'd like to certify that closed session was pertaining to Virginia Code Section 2.2-3711A1 pertaining to the discussion, consideration, or interview of prospective candidates for school board employment, appointments, transfers, resignations, retirement, discipline, or performance of employees of the school board in the areas of instruction, transportation, bookkeeping, nutrition services, substitute teaching, athletics, administration, and contracted services.
Do you have a second?
Second.
We have a motion by Ms. Sullivan Smoot and a second by Mr. Painter. Mr. Painter.
Yes.
Dr. Smith.
Yes.
Mr. Gabler.
Yes.
Mrs. Sullivan Smith.
Yes.
Yes. Citizen comment period. Can I have a motion to approve the minutes from October 2021 and November 2021?
I move that we approve the minutes for October 2021 and November 2021.
Second.
We have a motion by Mrs. Sullivan Smoot and a second by Mr. Painter. Are there any discussion on the minutes?
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Gabler?
Yes.
Mrs. Sullivan Smoot?
Yes.
Yes. Now, review of the minutes for December 2022. They're in your packets and they were posted. Okay.
Anything else? Okay. So on to, we're going to skip the consent agenda on to informational items. 7.01, monthly financial report. Ms. Seeker?
Madam Chair and members of the board, you have been provided the monthly financial report for December, where the expenditures and revenue were $2,892,933. Along with that, you've been provided the local match calculation that we did balance with the treasurer's office. If you have any questions, I'll be able to.
Any no questions? We'll move to 7.02, updated budget calendar. Ms. Seekers?
Yes, you all also have been given the 2000 fiscal year 2023 budget calendar. The last time we saw this, it did not have dates, had a lot of TBAs in there. We have now provided you all with some dates. Some highlights of that are a work session that will be February 17th to allow Dr. Fox to present the proposed budget. There are 2 other work sessions in March scheduled, and then Dr. Fox will present the school division budget to the Board of Supervisors on March 29th. Then we would wait for the BOS tax rate hearing and adoption in April. They would also then adopt their budget May 3rd, and we would have potentially another work session May 5th with our final budget adopted May 12th. And if you have any questions on that, I'll be able to answer those.
On to 7.03, superintendent's update. Dr. Papp?
Yes, thank you, and good evening, everybody. Tonight, I have a variety of information for you, a lot of it health data, just some different pieces of information as we move through the start of the new school year, or the new year, rather. First, we'd like to welcome you, Ms. Gordon, to the role of chair. We look forward to working with you as we move forward in the next 4 years. It's also Principal Appreciation Week is this week. So we just want to take a moment to say thank you to all of our principals and our assistant principals who are working hard and diligently out there in our schools. And I just want to read a few things from the proclamation that was put out there in terms of the different things that our principals and assistant principals do. They work cooperatively to direct, develop, and inspire all members of the school staff and the student body, and to communicate effectively with parents and engage them in the learning process. They serve as educational leaders responsible for managing the policies, the regulations, and the procedures necessary to ensure a safe and effective learning environment for all students. And they are entrusted with the opportunity and the responsibility of guiding, directing, nurturing, mentoring, and imparting knowledge to our students who are at their schools. So I'd hope that everybody this week or throughout the rest of the month, because we're going to celebrate them for the next couple of weeks with a variety of different things, we'd hope that everybody will take a moment and just say thank you to our hardworking administrative staff. And we certainly want them to know how much we appreciate all that they're doing, especially at this time, right now in the world of education. Their jobs are never ending, and we just appreciate the care that they take with all of the work that they do for our students. So in terms of the health data, we've been given some updates from the Virginia Department of Health, from the Lord Fairfax Health Department, and from UVA. So what we wanted to do tonight is just sort of present you with an idea sort of where we are. I think everybody knows in a sense, but just some information that was shared with us that we thought would be helpful to share with you all and with our school community. So the Omicron variant is much more contagious than any of the other variants that we've seen thus far. It has replaced the other variants, particularly the Delta, and it is responsible right now for 94% of our new cases. And that's across the state, not just here in our area. Case rates have accelerated to unprecedented levels throughout Virginia, and currently all 35 health districts are now in what they consider surge status. Virginia has not yet peaked, according to the Department of Health and the UVA Institute for Biocomplexity. And in South Africa, where this variant started, a month of rapid rise was followed by a month of rapid decline. The models continue to project a sharp rise for us, which we haven't yet hit, and then likely it'll continue for a couple of weeks and then go down. The disease appears to be milder with fewer deaths, especially in those who are vaccinated. And what the health department and UVA is sharing is that most of the people that are being hospitalized and or who are passing away are unvaccinated. And hospitals right now in Virginia are at or near capacity, and there was a governor's emergency order put out to assist in that regard. So right now, their advice is to get vaccinated if you can. And then I just mentioned the 30-day state of emergency that was enacted by the governor with the intent to help hospitals. So that's just sort of a picture of where we are with this particular variant. Our daily case rate, you can see that spike that's happened. And that particular one you see there with 26,000, that was around the 10th of January. And you can see we've come down a little bit, but you still see that upward rise there of where we are right now. And that's for the state of Virginia, what you're seeing there. This is our chart that we present to you each month. And you can see we've taken a dramatic increase in terms of the total number of new cases. I will say in my experience as an educator, this is the first time I've seen it have 4 digits to be in the thousands. So we're definitely in the high range there. With respect to our percentage of positive PCR tests, if you go to the next slide, please. We're currently sitting at 37.8%, which again is a triple of where we were this time when we met last month in December. So again, still in the high category there for that. So our indicator for community transmission, obviously, we're still sitting in the high range there. With respect to vaccine coverage, there is a little bit of optimism there. There's some increases that we're seeing across all of those grade bands. And you'll see that at the 5 to 11, there was an increase from last month in terms of fully vaccinated kids in that range. And we are looking right now in Page County, we're sitting at about 54.6% of 18 and older are fully vaccinated, and across the state, that's 78.4%. Here's our dashboard, which was updated for you earlier today. We're currently sitting at 49 active cases across our schools and our departments, with 396 cases across the year. So I will say, in comparison to some of the neighboring school divisions, we're not as high as them. Mm-hmm. So that's a good thing, but 49 is still high for us to have at one point in the year. In terms of our level of school impact, again, we go over this every month, but what we're trying to do right now is really nail this down statistically and put some numbers in there as these cases continue to rise. So what I'm going to show you in a second is each school, and it'll show you for those 3 areas, the transmission within the school, their student absenteeism, and their staff capacity. And each of them will be ranked as low, medium, or high based on where they're sitting. And so right now you can see that the majority where for student absenteeism, everybody's sitting in the medium. Everybody has high student absenteeism rates right now. And that's either because students are quarantined or they're sick or they're positive. Transmission within the schools, we are seeing a significant transmission rate right now at Luray High School. We did move them this afternoon to high, and that's based on the number of outbreaks that we're seeing in a school. And you can see the other schools there in medium. And then with staff capacity, we've got 2 schools there that we're concerned about right now in terms of capacity of staff, and that's Luray Elementary and Stanley Elementary. We believe, as long as no other phone calls are made tonight, that we'll be okay tomorrow at those 2 schools. We have central office staff ready and standing by if we need to fill in, and we will do that. Right now, those principals are to be commended. They've done a good job of finding and pulling staff to fill in for those absences that we're seeing. So just know that we're there for Luray Elementary and for Stanley. There's a possibility that if things continue the way they are, we may have to move them to remote simply because we don't have the staff capacity. Hoping maybe the weekend and the 3-day weekend will help a little bit with regard to that. The next slide is a little bit different one. I've usually shown you quarantines and case rates for the month. This is over time. I just wanted you to kind of see where we've gone this school year and where we're heading. These are monthly averages. They're not totals. These are the monthly averages of the quarantines, and this is for the top line is for your students in red,
and the bottom line in green is for your staff. So just want you to kind of see that, we started off really high, we got to a good place, and now we're starting to peak back up a little bit. And I do want you to remember, January right now, we're only talking about 4.5 days. We've had 4 days this week, and we had 1.5 last week. So let me correct my math and say 5.5 days. So we're sitting at 168, is that 196, just for the 5.5 days that we've been in for January. So we're peaking, and it's not nice. We're not looking forward to where these numbers might trend. The next case is, the next slide is for positive cases over time. Again, same thing, an average for each month. It shows you sort of that, where we were when we started, we came down, and now we're starting to trend back up a little bit. So just wanted you to get a sense of where we are, what's out there in the community, and then what we're seeing in our schools. We did release information this week. We sent out an email on Monday talking about our quarantine and our isolation procedures. The CDC did release new guidelines that were a little less stringent than what we were using. Based on this data and what we saw last week and over the weekend with some quarantining of athletic teams and things spreading, we decided it was in our best interest to move back to our more stringent quarantine protocols for now. It's not a permanent decision. We'll look at our data each week to decide if it's now time for us to move back and we can bring kids back to school sooner. Right now, we're sticking with the 10 days, but if you test between 5 and 7 and you're negative, you can come back on day 8. And then if we move to the CDC, it'll change that to day 5. So we just wanted to make sure everybody was aware. There's some reasons there we talked about in that letter that we sent as to why we made that decision. And again, we're going to continue to evaluate that. And it's not a permanent decision. We'll move when we think things are a little bit healthier and a little bit better for everybody. What we need, I just want to plead to everybody. We need everybody's help to bring this down. It's not just a school thing. This is a community thing. So I just ask everybody to please try and follow those mitigation strategies whenever you can. Wash your hands. Try to stay away from large groups if you can. If you have to be around a lot of people, wear a mask. And most of all, I think the most important one is if you're not feeling well, don't come to school or work. We recognize that that's a double-edged sword because it adds to our attendance rates and it depletes our staff, but at the same time, it won't put out other people if you're potentially sick with COVID. So we just ask everybody if they're sick to stay home. We wanted to just talk for a moment tonight about what we're doing to maintain in-person learning because we do believe that that's the best. However, we have preempted and told people to be ready in the event that we have to toggle to remote learning. But we just wanted to lay out for you what we're doing to try and salvage and keep in-person learning as much as possible. So when a teacher is out, class coverage is happening a number of ways. Obviously through substitutes. We're using as many as we can get and whomever we can get. So to our substitutes out there, we say thank you because they're showing up when they can and helping us out. If anybody's interested in being a substitute, we're still taking people for that. We'll use teachers, administrators, and other staff to cover whenever we have to in a building. Central office staff who have instructional experience have gone over and will continue to go over to support instruction. We may pair classes together and have one teacher with maybe 2 classes. We might actually move a group of students to a larger area like the auditorium and have one staff member supervise them while they work on some asynchronous work. We know that those situations aren't ideal, but they are situations that keep kids in school, and in that aspect of it, it's a positive. Sometimes, bless you, when teachers are out because of COVID and they are well, they are streaming into classes and they're actually teaching the class remotely. So when we can make that happen, we're making that happen. Transportation, all of these areas are going to be impacted and currently are impacted. So when we have drivers who are out, you're going to see that we'll use substitutes whenever we can, but you can expect some delays and some changes to routes and even some double routing. We encourage everybody to get our app, the PCPS app, because that's the easiest, quickest way that we're communicating out transportation changes. So we encourage you to get that. Nutritional services, if there are staff shortages there, we may have to change the lunch menu for the day. We use substitutes when we can, and then some central office staff have been trained and can go and support the kitchen, so we'll go out and do that if we have to make sure that the kids get the food they need. Everyone will get fed. That's a guarantee. It just may look a little bit different than the published menu because we have to put out what we can staff in terms of labor that we have that day. Other areas that may be impacted are custodial services and maintenance services. So it may mean that there's a delay in some of those things happening. But again, we try to bring in substitutes when we can, and our maintenance staff try to cover and prioritize things to get to the emergencies first and then to other daily tasks. But just know that all of those areas might be impacted over the next couple of weeks. So what does this mean moving forward? And again, we've pushed this out because we just need everybody to be ready at any moment's notice. We might call in an evening and say, unfortunately, we have to move the school to remote learning. And so that could be an individual student, it could be a class of students, or it could be, in some cases, an entire school if staffing shortages force us in that direction. The move to remote learning is always temporary. We don't have a fixed set number of days. Typically, in our experience in the fall, we started with 3, and then we evaluate and we decide if it's good to come back and our staff are there, or we might have to continue and go 3, 4, 5, or 6 days. So we don't set an amount, but we do want parents to know it's temporary, and we'll communicate with them every day as to where we are with it. We do provide meals to families during that time so that students can get fed. And we do communicate specific details out to families and staff once we send out the division message that we're moving to remote. Principals and teachers follow up with additional information. We do want to make it clear that students are expected to continue to work during the quarantine, whether it's through a remote closure or whether they're just an individual quarantine. They should be still doing work. They should be connecting with their teachers on Schoology or through messages that are put in Class Dojo, or by just reaching out to their teacher independently. If they have questions, I just encourage kids, email the teacher. That's the best, most efficient way to get information about if you're not sure what you're supposed to be doing or you don't know how to do it, email the teacher, and they'll respond to you and work with you. Some of the activities may be synchronous, which is live with the teacher. Others may be asynchronous, which means the student can work on them at any point in time. If we move to remote learning and we have synchronous live instruction with teachers, we'll push that schedule out to parents so they'll know what times their children are expected to be online. We do record that, so if for some reason they're with grandma and they can't get on, they'll still have access to that content. Any questions on that information before I move to some non-health COVID-related pieces? Mr. Benson, is there anything you'd like to add to the instructional portion of that information? All right, so just a couple of other updates for you. The first one, we've talked about this in the past, but on your purchase order approval tonight of purchase orders over 10,000, you'll see one there for TransFinder routing software called Route Finder Plus. And this is a transportation software that we've been talking about. It's going to help us define exact routes. It'll increase our efficiency for our transportation services. It'll consider a larger variety of safety issues for students when it develops those routes. It'll provide turn-by-turn directions for our drivers. It'll allow us to calculate and store mileage, give us bus rosters at an instant notice, and a large variety of other features that I think will make us much more efficient. It does secure and give online access to all of that transportation information, so principals will be able to access it, which is going to be a good thing for us. There's also a parent portal portion of it where they can find their child's bus information, and it'll also give them arrival times. So that's going to be great for parents. They don't have to guess now when the bus will be coming. They'll be able to see that in real time. And the good part about using this TransFinder is that it is compatible with PowerSchool. So information that's already in PowerSchool talks to it and back and forth. So we'll be able to have information from our bus system now in PowerSchool as well, and vice versa.
But your office staff will have to put the bus numbers in for each student.
Yeah. There's a lot of manual work that we'll have to do initially to get this set up. The cost that you'll see tonight is the initial installation. There's always those upfront fees to get it set up. It is an online cloud-based program, and it includes the professional development and the training for our staff to get it set up. The yearly cost of it is not what you'll see tonight. This is just the one-time cost to get it going and moving. And we will build into our budget starting this coming year the cost for that from year to year. So we're bringing it to you tonight. I know you probably think it's a little bit early, but it's actually not. We want to get it approved, get it set up. It's going to take a couple months of work in the background for our staff to get everything set up and those routes built. So we want to go ahead and get that approved now tonight, hopefully, and then move forward with getting our staff on board, getting their training so we can get the process started with transferring.
It will be nice though, because once they have the buses in there, you can send out a messenger just to those buses, so you don't have to blow up every parent in the school division for a bus route they've never heard of.
Yeah. There's a lot of positives to this. I think it'll help us in a variety of different ways. You know, we have limited staff there anyway. This is going to help them be more effective in their jobs. They're doing a great job as it is. This will just help them do a better job with it. So you'll see it again in a few minutes on your purchase order approval.
I have a question.
Yeah.
So I'm assuming there was a demo to sell this thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
So has that been shown to the bus drivers or a committee or, I mean,
Bus
to get the
drivers-
buy-in? I mean,
There's not really a lot of access on the bus driver level, other than they'll have access to pull up their rosters and their routes. Most of the work is on the back end with our staff. So our staff were the ones that participated. They looked at 3 or 4 different systems and ended up picking this one.
because I know some bus drivers will put on Facebook actually and say, hey, there's a delay and we're going to be, are they going to have the access to this to say, hey?
We'll control that on our end. We'll push things out up here because we'll have the central control of all the systems. So we'll be able to push it out so that they won't have to do that while they're driving or they're encumbered. We can take all that off of Facebook now and make it, push it out through official channels from the school division.
Okay. Just want to make sure, you know, you get buy-in from everybody, that they know what's coming, if there's
Yeah.
anything extra. to
We'll
it. So-
talk with them and certainly show them, and there'll be some training for them because we're going to want them to access the portal as well and have access to the information that they'll need. If they want the turn-by-turn directions, how do they access that? Because they can do it remotely through their phone if they need to, or we can have them print it out for them.
Yeah. And I know just change is not easy, right?
Yeah, I know.
Knowing more about it helps.
Yeah. Just wanted to update you on some of the grant notifications that we've received recently. We did find out that we received the state security grant. We were awarded $143,698 from the state. It does require a local match of 25%, so that's a little over $35,000. That gives us total funding for security enhancements of around $180,000. And that money will be split between the two things that you see there. Some will be used for surveillance cameras inside and outside the schools at Luray Middle, Page County Middle, and Page County High School. And then some other funds will be used for cameras and for internal communication, so our intercom systems at the 4 elementary schools. So this grant was submitted back in the summer. We always submit for more and hope that we get it. We submitted around $250,000 and we got around $143,000. So that's actually good in terms of what we received. So Mr. Williams and his team will now be working with those schools to get cameras and talk about intercom systems and replacing those using these funds. The American Rescue Plan ESSER Fund Homeless Child and Youth Grant, we were awarded $28,000 through that grant. And we're going to use that to purchase a vehicle that can be used to transport homeless students. So many times we have a student that's in another school division that's homeless. We bring them here, and it's only one student, so we typically don't send a bus, we'll send a car. We need extra vehicles to help with that. So this money will be used to purchase a vehicle for those purposes. So it can be either out of our division or within the division to transport homeless students. ESSER 3 state set aside grants for summer learning and before and after school programs. We've been notified that we have been approved and will receive funding. We just don't know yet how much it is. There's been a delay on their end in terms of telling us the exact amount, but we're looking forward to that money coming. And we'll be using those for different programs that we'll update you on as we move through the school year. Weather, I know that's on everybody's mind. We're anticipating another storm system that'll likely bring us snow this weekend. We just want to remind everybody that Monday, this coming Monday, is a holiday for students and staff. For Martin Luther King Jr. holiday, our 12-month staff are scheduled to work on Monday, but it's likely that may be impacted by the snow. We're going to wait for a more formal forecast tomorrow and Saturday, but it's likely everybody's leaning towards that there'll be some more snow. What we'll do is communicate the way we did last week with families and let you know as early as we can if there's a cancellation, a delay, or any change to activities and events. We'll communicate that out as early as possible. And then we are excited tonight to share with you that we have coordinated with the Lord Fairfax Health Department, and they're willing to sponsor a employee vaccine booster and initial vaccine clinic for anybody who might be interested. We'll push this information out to staff tomorrow because we do need them to let us know if they're interested, so the health department staff know how many vaccines to prepare. But it will be Friday, the 28th of January at the Tech Center from 3:30 to 5:30. So if any employees are interested in that, they're welcome to come and join us there. And that concludes my report for this evening. Are there any questions that I can answer for you all?
Thank you.
And thank you for your patience. Sorry, I know it was a little long, but thank you.
Moving on to action items, 8.01, approval of claims for payment. Mrs. Seekers?
Yes, board, you all have been provided with the claim certification where their total operating fund was $388,578.01. The food service fund, $35,670.72. Total expenditure, $424,248.73. Along with that, you've been provided with the list of claims as well as the check register.
I have a motion to approve the claims for payment as presented.
I make a motion to approve the claims for payment as presented.
I'll second. We have a motion by Dr. Painter and a second by Mrs. Sullivan Smoot to approve the claims for payment. Is there any discussion?
Yes.
Mr. Gabriel?
Yes.
Mr. Painter?
Yes.
Yes. Yes. 8.02, approval for purchase orders over 10,000.
Yes, we have 4 purchase orders for your all's approval this evening. The first is Allied Health Services. That is a contracted service used by our special education department. An Amazon order for active balance chairs that will be using the ESSER 2 funds. The purchase order to Home Depot, also using the ESSER 3 funds for replacing a ceiling tile in several of our buildings. And then the TransFinder routing software, that would be a transportation and purchase service.
So this is initial, the TransFinder's an initial cost. Is that going to be the same cost every year or
No,
close to it, or is
Probably
it?
be half.
Oh,
close to
half of
half
it.
of that.
Okay, all right.
Just the initial setup and all of that. You have to
Gotcha.
pay for it.
Of course, inflation will
Yeah.
change things here or there.
Can I just ask why they want 400 flexible seating chairs?
Yeah.
Those things are like,
It really
Is
does
it like the
help
ball?
some of the kids to stay focused in their classes, so this will be spread out across all of the elementary schools.
okay.
It really does help some kids maintain focus. And it was a part of our ESSER in terms of helping students in the classroom. So teachers had some say on this one in terms of some of the things that they wanted. So we'll spread them out around the different schools. Each elementary school will get a set of them, and they can move them around classrooms as they want. I anticipate we'll probably be coming back to you with a request for more.
So it's more of a trial run, is what we're doing
Yeah.
here.
But is it the round
The round bouncy one? Yeah.
No,
What are
they're
they
more
called?
like
Balance.
what you will hear about called a wiggle stool. So it more looks like a stool, and the bottom just allows them to kind of move a little
okay,
bit.
it's
So
not-
it's more of it's not a formal chair, but it's not a bouncy thing where they can hop
Yeah, I
around.
was thinking it was the balls.
No, it's more of a stool, and the bottom just allows you to kind of wiggle a little bit, and it doesn't disturb anybody, and you're not moving
Gosh,
around.
I
but it
was
gets some
thinking
of
the
that energy.
balls, and I was like, oh my God.
The other thing we're trying to do is create other classroom spaces in areas that we haven't had them. And so in order to do that, we don't want to just be moving furniture back and forth. We need furniture. And seating is part of that.
I feel better that it's those things and wobble stools and not the stability ball. Because that was
I think they're
bad.
nicknamed wiggle chairs or something like that is their nickname.
Can I have a motion to approve the purchase orders over 10,000? I make motion that we approve the purchase orders presented tonight over 10,000.
Second.
We have a motion by Mrs. Sullivan Smoot and a second by Mr. Gubler to approve the purchase orders over 10,000. Mr. Gubler.
Yes.
Mr. Painter.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. 8.03, approval of overnight field trips. Mr. Benson?
We have received an overnight field trip from Page County Middle School. This is for FCCLA, and this trip involves the student just going down to Waynesboro in order to complete their requirements as a state officer. So one student, the mother is going to be the chaperone, and it's going to be 3 nights overnight, and it's just in Waynesboro. And we're kind of just waiting to see, obviously, if the student participates virtually because of COVID issues, and this wouldn't be required, but we did receive a request. In order to complete their state officer duty, they are asking to be in attendance, and everything does check out.
If they stay overnight for Waynesboro?
They do quite a few activities in the evening. That's probably everything.
Can I have a motion to approve the overnight field trip as presented?
I make a motion to approve the overnight field trip.
Second. We have a motion by Dr. Painter and a second by Mrs. Sullivan Smoot to approve the overnight field trip. Mr. Painter.
Yes.
Dr. Painter.
Yes.
Mr. Gubler.
Yes.
Mrs. Sullivan Smoot. Yes. Yes.
Just for your information, Dr. Painter, their activities finish at 10:20.
Yeah, I'm just thinking back in the day when we played in Brentsville and Manassas City Park and stuff, and we didn't get back till midnight.
Right. Yeah.
8.04, approval of high schools and tech center fiber upgrade, E-rate project. Mr. Sample.
Good evening, board members. Back on December 10th, an RFP was submitted to the E-rate system soliciting bids to upgrade the fiber connections between the networking closets at both Luray and Page High, as well as the tech center. During the 2018-19 school year, we upgraded all other school locations to single mode fiber with the E-rate funds that we had available at the time. 2020 to 2025 is now our new E-rate budget cycle, so we have a new pot of funds available to work from. We solicited responses and accepted them up until January 12th at 12 noon. We received one bid from Advanced Network Systems, which is a familiar vendor of ours. In order to ensure the pricing received was competitive despite only receiving one bid, I went back to the winning bid from the 2018-19 year to do as close of a comparison as possible. Both high schools each have a main network closet that connects to 5 other closets in the building, in the different wings. And from the fiber bid evaluation that you can see up there of 21-22, the price of each high school is just over $18,000, or roughly about $3,000 per closet. The previous project site, you can pull up the reference bid. So the previous project site of Page Middle consisted of one main closet connected to 4 other locations at a price of just over $11,000, or about $2,200 per closet. Taking into account the ever-increasing cost of equipment, materials, supplies, and labors to do a project such as this, I believe that the current project cost is quite competitive. With our E-rate discount at around 80%, we will be responsible for the remaining 20% of the project costs, which will be around $8,500. If approved, I'll move on to filing for our discounted billing with E-rate in order to have the best chance for this installation to be completed during the summer and ready for next school year. And if you have any questions, I'll be happy to answer them.
Can I have a motion to approve?
I make a motion to approve the high schools and tech center fiber upgrade E-rate project as presented.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Painter and a second by Mrs. Sullivan Smoot to approve the high schools and tech center fiber upgrade as presented. Mr. Painter.
Yes.
Dr. Painter.
Yes.
Mr. Gubler.
Yes.
Yes. Yes.
Thank y'all.
Thank you. 8.05, approval of items discussed in closed session as presented in the packet. I make a motion that we approve the personnel agenda that was presented in closed session in the packet.
Second.
We have a motion by Mr. Sullivan Smoot and a second by Dr. Painter to approve the personnel items in closed session as presented in the packet.
Yes.
Mr. Bugler?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. 8.06, approval of the added recommendation in closed session.
Make a motion that we approve the personnel that was in addition to the packet. In closed session.
Second.
We have a motion by Dr. Painter and a second by Mr. Painter to approve personnel that was added in closed session. Mr. Bugler?
No.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Yes. 9.01, board member discussion time.
Welcome, Megan.
Thank you.
And something I wanted to ask, I know it's only January, but it's in the first semester, and I don't want April to come and then we have a big barrage of people show up, but I was just wondering if the high schools, because I know that we had, some, criticism of how the gown color was handled before Christmas and, communication and things, I was wondering if each high school is going to go ahead and get like some talk now about graduation and things like that now and get some parent and student input instead of waiting till make decisions without parents and then they show up. And I just want everything to be on the table and not like, well, who made that decision? Just hope that, it can be a collaborative effort since we have one more semester.
Man. Yeah, so the high schools are having those graduation conversations at the end of the month with students, and then they'll push out information to families at that time.
And how does that conversation work with the students at a high school?
So, well, it might change a little bit now just because of COVID. We don't want big groups together, but the principals, Miss Clark at Luray has already had conversations with her students. Mr. Hale will have with his. So I'll have to check with them as to how he's going to have those conversations, but it was going to be sort of an assembly type of meeting where they present all the graduation information to them, not just about gowns, but about everything. And then open it up for comments and to have a discussion about the gowns, present them a picture of the new gowns, and then see where students land. Students at Luray didn't have any questions or concerns about the change to the gowns at that time. And then what they do is they start pushing out information to parents at that point in newsletters and emails and things like that about the requirements for graduation.
Yeah, I'd just like people to know now what to expect instead of like, well, it's going to be inside, and then the next week, no, it's going to be outside, and just to be some thoughtful discussion leading up to it and planning. And I wanted to bring it up now so that it's not forgotten.
All right, well, I do just want to thank everybody, for welcoming me, and I'm looking forward to serving Page County in this role, and you'll just have to bear with me as I fumble through probably everything I say. Figure out what I'm doing. All right. We're adjourned. Oh, no, we're not. We have to make a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion that we adjourn.
Second. We have a motion by Dr. Painter and a second by Ms. Sullivan Smoot.
Mr. Painter?
Yes.
Yes.
Mr. Bugler?
Yes.
Yes. Yes. Now we're adjourned.